obstinately for a long time, but at last they were overcome by the odds. Of the Persians as many as 2,000 men fell, and of the Carians 10,000. Those of them who escaped were driven into the precinct of Zeus at Armes at Labrutta, a large and holy grove of plane trees. The Carians are the only people whom we know who offer sacrifices to Zeus by this name. When they had been driven there, they deliberated how best to save themselves, whether it would be better for them to surrender to the Persians or to depart from Asia. While they took counsel, the Milesians and their allies came to their aid, whereupon the Carians put aside their former plans, and prepared to wage a new war over again. They met the Persian attack and offered a heavier defeat in the battle than the first. Many of their whole army fell, but the Milesians were hardest stricken. The Carians, however, rallied, and fought again after this disaster, for learning that the Persians had set forth to march against their cities, they beset the road with an ambush at Pedasus. The Persians fell into this by night and perished, they and their generals, Darices and Amorges and Sisymaces. With these fell also Myrsus, son of Gyges. The leader of this ambush was Heraclides of Milasus, son of Ebenolus. This, then, is how the Persians perished. Himaeus, who had been one of those who went in pursuit of the Ionians who marched on Sardis, now turned towards the Propontis, and there took Sais in Mysia. When he had taken this place, and heard that Darices had left the Hellespont and was marching towards Caria, he left the Propontis and led his army to the Hellespont, making himself master of all the Aeolians who dwell in the territory of Ilium, and of the Gergithae, a remnant of the ancient Trojans. While he was conquering these nations, however, Himaeus himself died of a sickness in the Troad. This is how he met his end, and Artaphernes, viceroy of Sardis, and Otanes, the third general, were appointed to lead the army against Ionia and the Aeolian territory on its borders. They took Clazomene in Ionia, and Cyme in Aeolia. Aristogoras the Milesian, as he clearly demonstrated, was a man of little courage, for after he had disturbed Ionia and thrown all into utter confusion, he, perceiving what he had done, began to deliberate flight. Moreover, it seemed to him to be impossible to overcome Darius. While the cities were being taken, he accordingly called his fellow rebels together and took counsel with them, saying that it was best for them to have some place of refuge in case they should be thrown out of Miletus. He also asked them whether he should lead them from there to a settlement in Sardo, or Myrsinus in Edonia, which Histiaeus had received as a gift from Darius and fortified. Hecataeus the historian, son of Hegesander, was of the opinion that they should set forth to neither of these places, but that Aristogoras should build a fortress in the island of Leros and reside there, if he were driven from Miletus. Afterwards, with this as a base, he could return to Miletus. Such was the advice of Hecataeus, but Aristogoras himself thought it best to depart for Myrsinus. He accordingly entrusted Miletus to Pythagoras, a citizen of repute, and himself sailed to Thrace with any that would follow him, and then took possession of the place to which he had come. After this he was put to the sword by the Thracians, he and his army, as he was besieging a town, even though the Thracians were ready to depart from it under treaty. End of Volume 2, Part 13.